The PETM podcast is brought to you by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PETM and join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get your free koozie, y'all. Best part is, every cent in 2017, we're donating that to sponsored drivers. Join the PETM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. And hey, Sherwin, we sent out the koozies. They're all out there. People are tweeting us and everything with
pictures
the koozies.
are filing in.
Fantastic. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Jeffrey Whitler, Lori Sutton, Tony Salt, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marianne Levesque, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Mick Rose, and Steve Jr. the third. Let's do this, Sherwin. Woo! Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 93 for Thursday, April 6, 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PETM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, we better get fired up here because we got a big boat of content.
Well, there's a lot to go down. There's a lot to go down. Our official sponsors get the show notes before we start every week. And if you got the show notes this week, I have to, paste it in chunks.
They probably freaked out.
Yeah. Like, how are they going to do all this crap? There's no telling.
There's like a novel there. It's like 250 words.
Yep. Yeah, right? This is past like a ninth grade.
Yeah, this is like that 5-paragraph essay you had to do. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them.
Well, Sherwin, tell me this. What you drinking today?
So local stuff. Big fan of Monday Night Brewing.
Okay.
And this is their Blind Pirate Blood Orange.
Blood Orange. Look
in
out.
a can now.
Ooh, hello.
So it's the Blood Orange version of their Blind Pirate, which is...
So that means you can take it into the race now.
Hell yes, you can.
Very nice.
You can definitely take... One of these is going to be in Bristol, I promise you.
Excellent. And you brought us a little bit of something new here. You said you just saw it on the shelf and said, I got to have this.
Well, so I'm all about visual advertising. It was on the top shelf anyway, so I saw what it cost.
Put glitter on it, Sherman's going to buy it.
And I was like, well, who doesn't want to drink some chicken cock whiskey? So
chicken cock
that's
whiskey.
what we've got here. This is a bourbon, Heritage Reserve. Let's see here. Where does it even come from? North Charleston.
Okay.
Hence the chicken.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean,
cool.
That's new to us.
There you go. Well, I got Mr. Jim Beam Black. Jim Beam White, actually, and Coke. And next to it is I went to the store and got the...
Get a Lagunitas?
Lagunitas IPA.
I might have stole one earlier,
that's
so I
okay.
already knew.
No, that's delicious. It's good stuff. I saw this and I saw the Maximus and I went, let's go with the regular today. See what we think. So we've got our stuff going. Everybody raise a glass. And let's get this thing started. We're starting, though.
Cheers.
With some breaking news, Sherwin. Tell us about
breaking news. We've got breaking news. Actually, by now, you probably already know if you pay attention to golf, Dustin Johnson fell down a flight of stairs, hurt his back, and withdrew from the Masters after about 2.5, 3 hours of trying to loosen up.
I tell you what, I saw that come across a crawl on the bottom of ESPN, and I went, fell down a flight of, who pushed him?
Right, or
that's what that's what
I mean, or what
people
else
say when they mean something like. Do you think he actually fell downstairs? That's question one.
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
Okay, good.
I do not want to speculate as to the reason why.
Anyway, so we're also going to raise our glasses here. Hats off. Mr. Don Rickles passed away today at 90 years of age. And Don Rickles, if you don't know, and me and Sherwin, we're all into the whole comedy scene and all that stuff. So it's been fun following that along and everything. And Don Rickles, what did you call him?
He is the godfather of insult comedy. He invented roasting, so to speak.
I went online and I looked at, I just searched Don Rickles best of or whatever, and you're going to roll around laughing, and then you're going to start looking around you like, Can anybody see me laughing at this joke? Because this is bad in the wrong context.
Oh, right. Well, especially if you talk about back in the 50s and 60s when he started, and you could say things back then and didn't ruffle people's feathers. But I want to go ahead and give a shout-out to NASCAR Chasm because I kind of stole a comment he made on Twitter about him being, the folks that do insult comedy today owe their livelihood to Don Rickles for creating that genre.
And creating that audience, if you will.
Right, the audience that would accept that kind of comedy. And the reason why Don Rickles was able to do that kind of comedy, you'll find out if you read just a little bit about him, is everybody loved Don. Off the stage, Don was the nicest person anybody could ever meet, which is why you knew when he said something nasty that he didn't mean it.
Yeah, yep. So we've talked about golf. We've talked about comedy. Why don't we go ahead and talk about a little bit about racing? What do you think, Sherman?
That's probably a good idea.
It always takes us 6 minutes or so to get into it. Driver number 93, 93rd episode, dude. It's we're getting there. We're 7 weeks from something huge.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's already 93.
Right.
Because like 93 now, like you can associate that with a year where you were like a fully functional human.
Right. 1993. Yeah. For our age group, the mid-30s group, 1993. Like I remember events and I remember like stuff and the
blizzard of 93.
Yeah. There was that. Driver number 93. You put this out there. There was only 4 top 5s in the Cup Series history in the 93 car, and all 4 of them were the same person. Sherwin's got to take a quick break over there. He's had something in the wrong down the wrong pipe, but that's all right. We'll keep going. Dave Blaney had 74 starts in the 93. He's got the most. Travis Kvapil, 70 starts. It takes us all the way down to the 8th most frequent driver in the number 93 to get into somebody with some top 5s. And that man is Mr. Donald Thomas. Donald Thomas, if I can say it. He's a younger brother of NASCAR legend Herb Thomas. If y'all remember last week, PETM 92 in the fabulous Hudson Hornet, we talked about him in that 92 car. The 93 car, well, his younger brother drove that car. So really cool. He had 4 top 5s in 16 races in the 93. So a quarter of the races he raced in this car were in the top 5 that he ended up. 79 races in NASCAR total in the 1950s. 37 top 10s total out of his. So think about that, y'all. What did I say? He had it was something like 79 races, 37 top 10s. Almost half the time he raced, he was in the top 10. So that's cool. He retired in 1956. He's got 1 victory, and that was on the 1-mile dirt track in Atlanta called Lakewood Speedway. Sherwin's coming back right for this story, and this is a good juicy story.
Good timing.
This is a good juicy story. So his brother Herb, the legend that we talked about last week, was in that race. Herb broke an axle, stopped his car in the middle of the speedway, and this was under caution, of course, or whatever, waved down his brother, said, "Hey, buddy, stop the car. His brother stopped the car. Herb kicked him out of the car and jumped in. Right? NASCAR was scratching their heads during the caution going, we don't know, like, you're supposed to change drivers in the pits. Like, what do we do? I don't even know what to do. So they said, all right, we're going to send him to the back. We'll just send him to the rear.
Oh, the standard penalty.
Right. Guess what Herb did?
Flipped him the bird and didn't go back?
No, he went back and drove through the field.
Yeah.
Took the checkered.
I had to say something different,
Right. Herb got the win. He got the points in obviously a very controversial way. He was number 1. He was fighting for a championship. This was his second to last race of the season.
So then it makes sense, his behavior.
Right. But he got the points, but the rule says whoever starts gets the win, right? And so it was a big controversy on how that all went down. Herb got the points. I think Herb got the championship afterwards, and it's a whole big deal. If you go look in the record books, you're going to see that it lists Herb as the winner of that race, but Donald should have been the winner.
Credited with the win.
The
race.
And he would have been the youngest winner in Cup Series at 20 years old, all the way up until Logano won in 2009 at age 19. How crazy is that?
Wow.
What a story. So,
that's really crazy.
Yep. Well, that's that part. Dude, we've got a drop-in here with a guest that we talked to earlier. Super cool. It's a dude who, we'll introduce him on there, but his name's Don Nunley. He wrote a book about the Le Mans series and specifically about a a movie called Le Mans that Steve McQueen starred in. Yep, Steve McQueen starred in it, and yeah, I mean, we'll just have him take it away. Why not? This is going to be fun, y'all. So listen up, catch this. All right, y'all. The book is Steve McQueen, Le Mans in the Rearview Mirror. The man is Don Nunley. Well, Le Mans, the movie, is one of the most discussed, debated, examined, and beloved auto racing films of all time. Don was the prop master of all things on the movie, and was right there as it all unfolded. The book, Steve McQueen, Le Mans in the Rearview Mirror, is his story from the inside. And we've got him here today, Mr. Don Nunley. Don, how you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for calling me.
All right. Well, thanks for being on. We're real excited to talk about the book, talk about your interactions with these folks and everything. Sherwin, go for it.
Yeah, so Don, I think what we want to do is just allow you a brief period to kind of explain what your relationship with the film industry was and how that related to you end up writing this book.
I'd be happy to. I started in the film business at 20 years old, looking for a summer job. I was going to UCLA that fall, which I never did because I liked the film business. And I did some 35 motion pictures in my career. And I have to say Le Mans with Steve McQueen was a standout, and not necessarily all for good reasons. It was kind of cursed from the start.
Yeah, that sounds.
Well, that's a great lead in. You didn't realize it, but that's a great lead into the next question. I think it'll help us develop the conversation about what the movie was and how you went about writing the book. So what I have here in my notes is we know this was Steve McQueen's pet project. We know he tried for a long time to get it made, but based on everything I've read, it sounds like just about everybody left the set with a sour taste after the film was finished shooting. So tell us your perspective about that.
Sure. I got on the movie kind of by accident, I guess. I had just finished the film for the same company, Cinema Center Films, which was a division of CBS in L.A., Little Big Man. And the studio executive, Bob Rosen, liked my work on that film. And one day I was walking on the studio lot wondering what my next job would be, and he came up to me and said, "Don, would you be interested in doing the next Steve McQueen movie?" And I thought he was kind of being, kidding. I said, I didn't give him a chance to back out. I said, "Absolutely. What is it and where?" And he said, "Well, it's a racing picture. It's going to be shot in France. It's called Steve McQueen. It's called Le Mans, the 24 Hours." And I said, "I'd love to, Bob, but I really don't know anything about that sport." He said, "You'll learn." And I did.
Ironically, that.
So I went to, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, ironically, there's several prominent motorsports journalists in NASCAR that started out that same way, just not knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
But keep going with the story.
Well, yeah, so he said, "Well, the first thing you're going to do is learn about the racing world." So the studio sent me to Belgium to the Spa, to the race at Spa. It's a big, it's very similar. It's a 12-hour race. And it was all the same people. It was the Porsche team, which we were going to be working with, the head of the team, and then their drivers, Pico Rodriguez, Joe Siffer, Eric Bell, Brian Redmond, all the big guys at the time. And when you arrive in a situation like that and you're representing a film company, they accept you right away. You don't have to pay your dues and become one of the boys. You're one of the boys.
That's cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was great. With my camera, shooting a lot of pictures. And after the race, which Pedro won that day, they have a party, like kind of like a wrap party on a movie.
Okay.
Not only the racers, but all the celebrities and people that follow these events are there. So it's a great introduction for me.
That's pretty neat. So tell us a little bit about why everybody kind of walked away from Le Mans with no really interest in a rap party.
Yeah, well, what happened is the studio inherited this picture when Warner Brothers put it in turnaround, which means they no longer wanted to make the movie, and the picture was up for grabs. Cinema Center was the lucky at the moment, they thought, reception of Steve and he was right at the height of his career. You had Steve McQueen, who had done Bullet and other great films, #1 box office star in the world at the time.
Yeah.
Coming to do a passion picture about racing. They had a no-brainer, they thought. The only problem is they had Steve and racing, but no script.
Oh, boy.
And the problem, they were dumb enough, which happens more than it should, to start this project without a finished script. They brought in John Sturges to direct, who had done The Great Escape with Steve, and he's done several big films with Steve. He kind of made Steve's career. Magnificent Seven. And so they thought they had a great team, and they had also been able to work out problems on scripts before. So we all went off to France, and we were going to shoot a lot of the film within the race itself, the 24-hour period. So we were only planning to shoot about 6 or 7 weeks at the most afterwards. But what happened is Steve, who had planned to drive in the race himself, was told at the last minute he couldn't do that because the insurance company was not going to insure him. And, of course, he was the project. If anything happened, the studio was out all that money. So they said, "You're not driving." Steve was very upset. He refused to do a lot of things he could have done to make our shoot a lot easier, like before the race, in his pilot's uniform, and get the accolades from the crowd, which he would have, as any great driver did, but he was also a great driver and a movie star, so it would have been great footage. We didn't get walk through the paddock area where all the support vehicles are, with probably 200 support vehicles. All the tire companies, the champagne companies, the headlight companies, all had their VIP tents, and the drivers had places they went when they weren't driving. They got out on they had trailers to rest in or whatever, and it would have been an incredible batch of footage we didn't get because Steve refused to do that. And his excuse was it would be cheating the public. He was being authentic by doing that. Well, I think he forgot we were making a movie. We missed that opportunity. So that put a lot of that strain back on the crew, and I ended up having to recreate the paddock during the film, which we weren't planning to do. And we had to make arrangements. We had a lot of extras we had to hire to put in the grandstands to get some shots with Steve out there. And that was expensive. But the biggest problem still was we didn't have a script. And we shot the race. We had 24 Panavision cameras. We had 300 on a 908 Porsche, which we were able to enter into the race, which had never been done before.
Wow.
The racing in the film was so good, part of the reason. And helicopters, we had them everywhere. The pit areas and the signaling pits and the grandstands. So we did cover a lot of space, but we didn't get the money shots we had planned on.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was part of the problem. And then we started trying to shoot a film after that without a script. And we started shooting a lot of racing footage, which we know we needed. But we shot for, I believe it was 6 weeks, the total amount we were supposed to make the film in. We didn't have a leading lady cast. We didn't have any dialogue recorded. We just had cars. The studio was not too happy. Sturgis was not too happy. McQueen was not happy. And a lot of tension on the set. And Steve was not being cooperative with John Sturgis at all. He just had it. And he went into the office one night and told Bob Relia, the producer, he was going home. He was going back to the hotel, but Sturgis went to Paris, got on an airplane, flew back to LA.
Wow.
Without a director, out of script, a lot of money spent, and nothing to show for it, really. So you can see the developments weren't working.
Yeah, so up to this point in the story, or in the process of this movie making, what do we have? We've got footage of a race that Steve McQueen wasn't able to go in. We've got a really upset actor, main actor, And we've got no script for the rest of the movie.
Right. And an upset studio who's putting the money up.
Yeah. So how on earth did this movie even get made after that?
Well, we shut down for 2 weeks at that point.
Okay.
A lot of the crew was let go, including our cameraman, a French cameraman, who was doing a fine job. But they thought they could get a Hollywood cameraman, and he'd be able to shoot faster, and he knew the ropes more. Then Bob Hauser, who was a fine cameraman, and he did a good job. They brought in a new director, who Steve had no say in, was going to be now. Lee Katzen was mostly a TV director, but his reputation was shoot the script and get it done, and don't get artsy fartsy, so to speak. So Lee came in. Lee was a nice guy, but he was an Ivy League guy. He wasn't Steve McQueen's kind of guy. He liked to wear a sport jacket or a blazer, and he had his Phi Beta Kappa around his neck, and Steve. So they didn't hit it off that way. But since Steve had lost all control of the movie, he had to do what he was told to do, basically, and he said he would do it. He did put a lot of barriers up to begin with, but he finally came in line, and we shot video, finally hammered out. But the problem is we really never had a good story to go along with the wonderful racing stuff. And I don't know if it's cold. It's good as far as racing, and the car stuff is wonderful. It is rather cold.
Yeah, so I watched it Wednesday night, and my comment going away was, yes, the racing stuff was awesome. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure that movie has less dialogue than any movie I've ever watched that wasn't a silent film. Yeah.
You're right. 27 minutes without one word of dialogue.
I'm so glad you said that, because I told somebody else just yesterday, I said, I watched Le Mans because I hadn't seen it before, and we got this awesome guest coming on the podcast, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we went like 20, 25 minutes where nobody said a word.
Wow.
Good observation.
Wow.
So when the film we finally finished shooting, they had tons of footage. They went back to LA and tried to assemble something. Jose was never admitted into the editing room, which a guy in that position on that picture, but he had very little to do with the picture from there on, and it's his fault it ended up like that. It's not his fault, that we didn't end up with a movie. And I got to feel Steve was going through a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. His project was in trouble. His marriage was in trouble. His relationships with not only John Sturgis, but both producers on the film were longtime associates, was out the window. And he was on the Charlie Manson hit list, we found out. So,
oh, God.
Yeah, I read that.
There was a lot going on in Steve's head.
Wow. So what was it like meeting him the first time you met him? Were you kind of starstruck or anything, or was it like, oh yeah, I've been doing films, I know who this is?
Yeah, I never really got starstruck. I impressed more with the work they did.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I got a silly question for you, Don, before we start plugging the work that you're actually about to put out. One of our friends in the podcast space and the racing world is a modified racer from Ohio. Yonkers Motorsports has a question, kind of one of those nebulous sort of Steve McQueen's reputation precedes him kind of things. Is he comes off as the kind of guy that could race in a dress and still be the coolest guy on the planet. Is that the vibe you got from him?
Okay, well, my thought on that is Steve certainly was cool. I've worked with a lot of actors, and they all had a certain mystique or reputation. And Steve was, best way to put it, I think, was a good old boy.
Okay.
He related to guys that drove cars and rode motorcycles.
There you go.
That makes sense. That's our crowd, too. That's
no
people
kidding.
listening to this show. So now we're kind of getting into the section where we're actually going to talk about your book. And I guess what I would...
good.
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to read all of the words yet, but I did look at all of the pages. And so what I want to ask you, without leading you too much, is, for me, if you're a race fan or you like race cars or cars at all, or you like Steve McQueen, whether you like cars or not, is this the kind of book that you see on a table next to Ansel Adams that you would pick up maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks and just fumble through and maybe read a couple pages just to say, man, that was cool or whatever? What's your opinion about it as the producer of the content?
Well, I think it's first of all people who are interested in cars, McQueen, or movies.
There you go.
I think this book will appeal to.
Yeah.
Because it does give you great insight into McQueen, a great insight into the race itself, and a great insight into the problems of making a movie, and especially this one. So I think it should have wide appeal in that area. It is the kind of book. 90% of the pictures in the book are mine. I shot myself on the set. A lot of them haven't been seen before. And Steve and the race are going to, I think, be hopefully blown away by the new content that's now available.
That's really cool. What was your inspiration for starting the book? At some point you had to go, you know what, I've told this story a million times to a bunch of people. I need to write a book. Was that how it started, or was it somebody came to you? How'd that come about?
Well, a little of both. I had the pictures. I'd had several people say I ought to do something, and that always means sure, right? Someday I might.
Yeah.
But a gentleman in L.A., Steve McQueen fan and a collector of Steve McQueen memorabilia, who bought several of my things that I had left from the picture, said to me, he said, I'm going to introduce you to Marshall Terrell, the co-author. He said, you guys definitely ought to do a book together. And I said, fine, of course. And then next thing I know, Marshall gave me a call near Phoenix right now, and he lives in Phoenix. So we got together and talked. He had a publisher who he had done several books with. Marshall's quite an author. He's got a long list of really fine books. In fact, he wrote the books Steve McQueen, the King of Cool. So when Marshall and I met, we hit it off, and he introduced me to Glenn Morris, with Dalton Watson Fine Books, and they're noted for the quality of their books. Now, Glenn said I'd be interested in doing the book, and we took off and made a book. For years in the process of getting it together. A lot of work had to be done on my pictures because they're all shot in 35 millimeter. The old days when you carried a Nikon or a camera like that. Mm-hmm. So none of them were big format. And so they had brought a gal in, Jody Ellis, specialist and a Photoshop specialist. Between her, Marshall, myself, and my wife, Susie, who's also excellent with Photoshop, we made these. We took all the spots and blemishes off the old slides, and it came out pretty damn well. I'm very pleased with the quality of the book.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah. Sherwin, what else?
I tell you what, it's probably time to wrap this thing up. If you want to just go ahead and promote the book.
Yeah, where can we find it? Where can we find you? All that sort of stuff.
Well, if you go into IMDb, of course, the movie database, I'm in there. I'm looking up under my name. It gives you all my credits and a little bit about me. You buy the book. I think you can buy it. Certainly the best place to buy it would be our website, which is Glenn Morris's, which is, it's just put in DaltonWatsonFineBooks.com.
DaltonWatsonFineBooks.com.
I think I've linked your site there several times on Twitter this week.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, and you can also go to Amazon. They don't have a big supply, but they will make the book available, I understand.
Very cool. Very cool. You know what? One last question for you before we head out. Are you did you continue following racing at all? Are you a race fan now?
I didn't. I've seen the race a couple times on TV. The thing about being in the movie business, and especially my job, I went from a 1850s Western with Dustin Hoffman to the present-day race in 1970 in Le Mans. And after that, I think I did a film about a basketball picture in Phoenix and a ski picture in Vail and a diving picture in Bonaire. So, your life goes on, and you learn all these new things that you didn't know before, which was really a terrific part of being a prop master. But you don't really have time to stick with one thing. So I didn't.
I got
I've
you.
always been interested. I've read about it. I kept up with some of the drivers that are still alive. Derek Bell, for instance. I talked to him a couple of years ago.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Who provided the watches. I stayed in touch with him. So it's you make friends, but you go on.
Yep.
Understood.
Well, y'all, once again, the book is Steve McQueen, Le Mans in the Rearview Mirror, and this is Don Nunley. Don, thank you so much for joining us.
Believe me, it's been my pleasure. Good luck with the show, guys.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Well, that was cool to talk to him, and what y'all may have missed in the after show there, what you definitely missed in the after show, we sat there talking to him about like the Western films that he's done and stuff, and it's like, oh man, he's got a lot to talk about for the Western films. We were just talking about Steve McQueen and the Le Mans series and and that movie and the book he wrote about it, but he's got a lot in the bank for that. So we'll try to get him on and talk about some Western stuff at some point, right, Sherwin?
Yeah, no kidding. Being the prop master on a film means that basically you have a lot of creative license on how the set looks, and like you create the look for the set.
Yep.
And it sounds like he's done every kind of movie, and he offered up to us, any time to talk to him about it. So we may bring him back on just to talk movies if you think
me some movies.
If y'all think that's fun too, especially if like we have an off week coming. Well, certainly not next week. That'll be too quick. But it was a great conversation. It was cool, and it's someone that's like completely outside our realm, outside of our generation. I was texting with my dad earlier, and he's like, "Man, how old is that guy? That's pretty cool." He's a big Steve McQueen fan.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's fun. That's some fun stuff to talk about. And this dude's old school cool, dude. We've talked about it with Gordon Perkle over there in the Dawsonville Pool Hall, and talked about old school cool. This dude called him pictures. Like, I love a dude who calls it. He's doing some pictures.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Love that stuff.
Yeah, very, very cool.
So it's time to tear it down. You ready to tear it down?
It is time to tear it down.
Let's tear it down. There's our little deal for that. Martinsville. So I've got, before we get to it, I've got a quick story. So I went into work, excuse me, and I've got a coworker who watches NASCAR, right? And he said, he came to me and he said, man, I've been, he's our IT guy. We talked about hiring him on this show like 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever it was.
Wow. Episode 17 or something.
Yeah. So he's a NASCAR fan. He goes, man, I was out at the data center this weekend. He's putting together this whole big data center thing that we're doing. But anyway, he said I wasn't able to watch a race. And he said, how was the race? Was it good? I do not know how to respond to someone when they're asking, I missed something. Was it good? And the answer is, holy crap, dude, that was fantastic. Like, I don't know how to respond and not sound like a butt, and be like, dude, you missed. I can't go, dude, you suck. I can't believe you didn't watch that. That was incredible.
You pretty much picked the worst race of the year to miss.
Oh, my gosh. I'm talking about wire to wire, and not just wire to wire. That third segment, and not that I'm trying to support segments here. It's more about just breaking the race up. But that third segment, watching the leaders going back and forth and on each other's bumpers and everything. I mean, I'm on the edge of my seat the whole race, and just incredible racing. So much fun to watch. And the rest of the field is going crazy. I mean, I don't know what to say. Loved that race.
Well, I can say I went through, if we're just talking about, let's talk about the length of the race just for a second.
Go for it.
Just for a minute, just to see how it feels. When we got to 60 to go in the first segment, I was like, I kind of had a brain fart, and I said, please let this be the first segment.
Yeah.
And then it popped up, segment 1.
Yeah.
60 to go, and I'm like, sweet, we have 380 more laps to go, because this has been awesome already in the first 60 laps.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Martinsville is now. And by all means, it's been that forever. But Martinsville is the best oval track on the circuit.
Well, and you wrote some notes here, and you said, beating and banging, it's the way NASCAR, quote-unquote, used to be every year in Southern Virginia. And it's always asking us, it always leaves us asking that question, why don't we have more short tracks?
Yeah, why don't we do this more? I mean, we know we've talked to enough people. We understand the financial implications of why we don't do this more often.
Mm-hmm.
But the question that NASCAR needs to always take away from Martinsville is, why don't we do this more? Because it's so good.
Yeah. So that was incredible to watch that front row just on each other's bumper the whole time. And think about this: if you're Kyle Busch, that whole race, and you're sitting there leading, you don't have this 3-second lead where you can just be comfortable driving around. It's not a hit your marks kind of thing. It's
not a all right, I'm gonna lift here and I'm gonna go back to the gas here.
Yeah.
No, Martinsville is intense the entire way around.
Yep. And Brad was all over him. I mean, just what a deal.
Which is why, that's why you love it. That's why the language on the radio is so much more intense.
Yeah, no kidding.
We even had an F-bomb from Junior.
Yeah.
Make it on. Great. I mean, props to Fox for saying, you know what, we're on cable. We'll take a chance that we're going to tap into Junior's radio live and he might say something.
He dropped
and the reality is NASCAR fans cuss too. Like, right. And they cuss in front of their kids. They cuss in front of their moms. It's okay to just apologize and say, I got mad and I cussed.
Yeah. And then I love the way Fox handled it because it was, what the F-bomb happened back there from Junior. And Fox went, sorry about the language there. Anyway.
But it was like, but you can understand why he asked the question.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. You can understand why he asked, like, not just apologizing for it, but also, like, feeling the sentiment,
like, sorry for the F word, but valid question.
So, man, that was crazy. And I kind of prefaced the whole stage racing thing, but it felt like stage racing was okay. I liked it.
Well, I think for the first time, and you'll have to correct me if you think or if you have a different opinion, but I think that was the first time we finally saw NASCAR get to actualize what they thought stage racing could be.
I think it takes a short track to do that.
I think so too, and I think we talked about that at the very beginning of the year, especially going into Daytona. That, boy, I don't know what you're going to be able to do at a plate race to make this stuff work.
40 laps of plate racing. And
6 weeks later, when we get to Martinsville, different ballgame.
Well, we saw, so it's so interesting the strategy that we see. In Daytona, it's just whatever on the stage racing. We get to Atlanta. You remember Kevin Harvick not passing Danica Patrick for the lap car down or free pass or whatever.
Right, giving the teammate a break.
Yep, giving the teammate a break. Interesting strategy there. This one was straight up. This is what stage racing is all about.
Well, yeah, we saw awesome things happen at the end of both the first and the second, and I immediately said, like, I jumped off the couch and said, stage racing!
This is it.
This is what they were trying to do.
I get it.
I mean, call it manufactured if you will, but I still got excited.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's okay in a lot of ways.
Yeah, all right. I'm good with it.
I thought it was fun. I mean, we'd be singing a different story if Stenhouse had knocked Junior out of the way than Kyle. But maybe he even knew that. Maybe Stenhouse is riding around in that car going, boy, if I push Kyle out of the way and get back on the lead lap, nobody going to be mad.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that killed me was that on the podcast last week, I sat here thinking, I kind of want to pick Brad in this race. I want to pick Brad. But then I was like, I have no good reason. Like, I can't explain why, like, because on the podcast here, I kind of have to give a reason or at least make my case, And I had no reason other than I'm feeling Brad today. So I was like, no, I'm going to pick whoever I picked that finished, DFL or whatever it was.
No, you did a lot better than that. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. Actually, I picked Chase, didn't I?
Yeah,
so he ended up, once again, third place and whatever. Dale Jr., Ryan Blaney. How about that deal?
Those guys can't get away from each other. And that is like NASCAR to a T, y'all. So if you've been watching for a few years, you know that when two guys get into it on the track, it seems like the very next week they get into it again, or their haulers are parked next to each other, or they're assigned adjacent garage stalls or whatever it is. Excuse me. That's just NASCAR. And those guys are such good friends that they'll figure it out. And the fact that junior fans are losing their minds over it, sorry, is pretty typical.
Well, you remember what was it? 2, 3? I think about 3 seasons ago, 3 years ago, and Kyle Busch had knocked out Casey Kane like 3 times in a season, and it was just, retrospectively, it was probably just racing deals. But it was like, all right, when is Casey gonna turn around and actually do something to Kyle? But again, being racing deals, it's like, well, what can you do?
Well, when you're not someone that tend to pay people back.
Oh, Sherman's got a little bit of a bug in the back of the throat there. Sorry, y'all. Hey, this is live deal. This is what you get.
This is live TV, live podcasting, and I've got a throat thing thanks to all the pollen, which is a new thing for me.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not dealing with it well, because I probably should have taken a Zyrtec or something.
Whatever it is.
Before this. Look at that. Eyes watering.
But, racing deal. That's what happens, especially when both those cars are quick. They're running towards the front. And, we've talked about it on the show. Blaney is, he's got a lot of fast in him. He's got a lot of future in him, a lot of fast in him. And Dale is, it feels like at the top of his game right now.
Well, if you run in the top 10 every week, and the guy you keep running into runs in the top 10 every week, you're going to be around each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we discovered with those two guys. Junior handles it better than anyone because he's got such a different temperament.
Yeah.
So that's been really good.
Yeah. What the F-bomb happened back there?
Well, you know what? He said some really interesting things on his podcast about how the way they've done the bumper mounts now, with trying to get the car so low, that the reason why he was out of the race was because when he hit Casey in the hind end, Casey's rear bumper bar actually went in and sheared the top of the radiator off.
Oh, geez.
So it instantly killed their day. There was nothing they could do.
Yeah.
But he reiterated his support for the if you go to the garage, you're done rule. So
and I still like that. I still like that a lot. So
I think it's good. I think it's going to, in the long run, it's good because we will get upset about it at short tracks, but on big tracks where these guys will just have parts falling off the car, excuse me, we won't have those really weird, stupid cautions by somebody running 38th.
Yep.
That affect the leader's ability to win the race.
And I kind of buried the lead here, but Brad Keselowski, how about that? How about that win? That was
so
well fought, hard fought, and well deserved.
So, yeah, and I did some research on this, too, because I was interested in something like this. And I made some comments, obviously, in the notes for the people who got those and read them. Brad can beat you with a car that's not very good. He's shown that. And that through cerebral manipulation of the rules or, the air stuffs. You've seen him driving down straightaways at big tracks, like flipping stuff on and flipping stuff off.
Yeah.
He and Paul Wolf can beat you with a mediocre car. If you give him the best car, he's definitely going to beat you.
Yeah.
And he, so far, this year has run the most number of fastest laps on the racetrack.
Oh, wow. I just got goosebumps for some reason hearing that.
Yeah,
I love
got
stats
like
like
232 fastest laps run of the race.
That's nuts.
So when Brad's got the best car, he's gonna beat you.
Yeah. Well,
because he could beat you with a 12th place car.
Yes. And that's the guys running up front. You put yourself in that position, you do the strategy, and then now if you're that kind of guy with that kind of crew chief, that's what happens. It's time to gas it up. Let's go to Tejas. It's time to go to Texas. Not just Texas, New Texas. Nuevo Texas.
Texas.
Yes, sir.
We have New Mexico. We have New Texas.
Yep. There's, some skepticism out there when there's a repave, and there's a good reason for that. But Texas has made some daggum changes, Sherwin.
Yeah, so, there's always skepticism when you put a new surface down, and it rightfully so. We've seen things get a little bit bland at Charlotte and at Darlington. But Texas took the opportunity to completely change the geometry on the 1 and 2 end of the racetrack. They flattened it out. They made the racing groove wider. So, I guess from my perspective is as soon as we get some age on this asphalt, I'm expecting us to go into 1 and 2 at Texas and to be a lot like California in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And that, there's like
Goosebumps
5
again.
lanes, maybe.
Yeah.
Harvick and Kenseth are going to be down there trying to grab that white line.
Yep.
Larson's going to be up there.
way up in the wall.
And Earnhardt Jr. are going to be
Yep.
dancing with the wall. Any of those dirt guys may be up there high. Any of those guys that grew up asphalt, late model racing are going to be hugging the bottom. And there's going to be middle for passing.
Yep.
Like, hey, I'm not great on the bottom. I'm not great up top, but I'm pretty good in the middle, and I can go by all y'all.
Yep.
And I think that's what we want to see at Texas.
Yes, absolutely. And especially with the, I would say, disappointments that we've had in Texas, not necessarily in the racing, but just in the operations or whatever, now to have something new here. All right, let's erase the scoreboard, see what happens here. I'm excited to see it.
Well, think about what we had happen at Texas is, they announced they were considering a repave, then it rained, and then we missed a race. They ran it on a Sunday, and it was a great race. And then it was like, okay, that was such a good race. We're going to start running on Sundays. And then that one rained out.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, this is why we talked about repaving, because it took 6 hours to dry the track.
Right.
Which is
and
too
the word
long.
and if you drank for every time they said weepers, you would just be dead.
You'd have been dead in the first couple hours.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have a new surface. It might still rain out because weather's weather.
Weather's weather.
And we're not predicting that. I don't think the weather's saying that. Just saying that, that could still be a possibility. The difference is now they're going to have a much better shot at drying the track because it's a new surface.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got, legit created a different racetrack than we used to have.
Yep. Exactly. So it's time to pick some drivers.
Oh, goodness.
There it is. It's time to do some picks.
Okay. Wow. Well,
so
per usual.
per usual, I picked Chase mainly because of the whole 24 thing. I thought it was fun to pick the 24 at Martinsville, but he did a great job again. It's so golly, man. This 24, at some point, and he led one of the stages. Or won one of the stages,
Thanks
whatever
to
you call
Ricky
it.
Stenhouse, but yes.
Yeah. He won the truck race.
He won the truck
race. He's so close. He's so close.
Very, very close.
Yep. And I think there's a tipping point. There's a tidal wave here where as soon as one happens and he gets in there, there's going to be, I predict 3 wins within the next, I'll say, 20 races. Maybe that's too many. Within the first 15 races of his first win, he's going to get 3 of them.
Well, so I think his tidal wave rides even higher than Larson's. And I think Larson's tipping point was winning. And I think he's going to get maybe 1, maybe 2 more. Whenever Chase finally gets over the hump, it might start getting ugly for the other people that are running
for
races.
Everybody else. And for that reason, at Texas Motor Speedway, I'm picking Kyle Busch.
Not a bad pick.
Mr. Double Barrels, Mr. Race on. I like him racing on a new surface. When it comes to all right, who are you going to pick on this thing that nobody really knows what's going to happen? Nobody, which straight up driver are you going to pick? And truth is, I'm going to pick one of the Busch brothers. I'm going to either pick the best wheelman in NASCAR, Mr. Kurt Busch, or I'm going to pick Mr. Everything, Kyle. I'm going with Kyle this race. Sherman?
I think that's a great pick. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the team that went to Darlington on a repave and won a race.
Okay.
And a guy that's had a ton of success at Charlotte, especially last year.
Uh-huh.
So I'm picking number 78, Martin Truex Jr.
Yes, sir. Just got goosebumps because I was like, when you say whatever the first thing you just said, I was like, he's picking Truex.
You knew it because we were there.
Yep, exactly.
Somebody tweeted, I think it was Carlton, tweeted about being there for Regan Smith's win.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about what Start Park team actually has become a consistent competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And Furniture Row came to mind, although I think we discovered with enough research behind that they never really were a Start Park team. They just missed a lot of races when they were trying to qualify.
Yep.
So moving on from that, yes.
Yep. So that's that, man. We got the Masters coming up. How about that? That's going to be cool.
Absolute favorite golf tournament of the year. Rusty and I joke all the time that we are the biggest fans of the 4 quote-unquote most boring sports. We love
If you're an average American, give me some NASCAR, give me some soccer, give me some golf.
NASCAR, soccer, golf, and baseball.
Oh,
we love those sports. We love our Braves, but we love NASCAR, and we love golf, we love soccer, and of course we love the Masters because we're Georgians. We're raised in the midst of it. Mm-hmm. It's in Augusta, Georgia. And,
I eat pimento cheese sandwiches.
Cheese sandwiches. I mean, to tell you what.
Yes, sir.
Bobby Jones was the architect of Augusta National. He went to Georgia Tech, which is just one more connection for us and why we love it. And so what I want to talk to you about now is why I think golf is the closest analogy in professional sports to what NASCAR is.
Interesting.
Which is weird because they are very different from a competition perspective.
Well, and especially and even like the comparison stuff. I mean, we I guess that's probably the most stick and ball sports. But when I think
both
of
stick and a ball.
yeah. When I'm thinking of stick and ball, I'm thinking of baseball. I'm thinking of football. I'm thinking of the national sports there. But interesting analogy. Where are you going to go with it, Sherwin?
All right. So first of all, where I want to start is all the competitors are in the same place at the same time.
So that's something that I think is the strongest comparison. Is when you're looking at different sports and how things work and blah blah blah, the fact that golf has everybody out there at the same time and everybody's competing against each other too.
Right, competing against each other in the same place.
Yep. I think that's a strong comparison.
Okay, so detractors of that concept will say, well, they're all on different holes. They finish at different times. Those are legitimate attacks at the analogy. Let's say, just for the sake of the argument or the discussion, let's throw out the fact that they'd finish at different times and just focus on the fact that there are different people on different holes. Mm-hmm. To me, this feels a lot like racing different parts of the racetrack with people that are running potentially a different race. Or maybe they're running the same race.
I was going to say different race, really.
So
for the 20th and back, they're running a different race than the people up front.
Right, exactly. And so you could be racing to keep the leader behind you because you want to stay on the lead lap and a stage green checker's coming.
Mm-hmm.
You could be racing to pass the leader because that's what you're supposed to do in a race anyway.
Yep.
Second place wants to try to pass the leader. You could be passing a lap car in order to put more distance in between you and second.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the things that can happen on a racetrack. Those are also all the things that can happen in golf because you and the leader of the golf tournament could be playing on the same hole at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the leader
of
the golf tournament and be playing the guy that's trying to catch you.
Yep.
But you could also be playing with the guy that's having a terrible day and is acting up, acting a fool, distracting, throwing clubs, cussing.
Is probably
And he can be just as distracting as a lap car on a racetrack.
Yeah.
If you pay more attention to him, then you pay attention to your game. So that's why I think those things are analogous.
Okay. What else?
So, sponsorship.
That's huge. That's a big thing.
Cars are rolling commercials for businesses.
Yep.
Golfers are walking commercials for businesses.
Yep.
Those
a little
things
bit slower.
Quite similar.
Yep.
And the drivers / teams and the golfer, they get to develop their own relationships with sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not just one. You could have a clothing-specific sponsor.
Sure, you could have a ball, a clothing,
you could have
hat.
a shoe-specific sponsor.
Yeah, all that stuff.
A hat-specific, a club-specific, a ball-specific, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
You could have 5, 6, 7 different sponsors that make sense for a golfer.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, look at Dale Jr.'s car every week. Look at Chase Elliott's car, as Tommy Joe Martins commented on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's already had like 7 different like feature sponsors,
primaries.
and we've only run 5 races.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's got all these relationships, and those things are really similar in terms of what they do for bringing value to the team, the value for success. So that's another place that I think golf and NASCAR are really similar.
Mm-hmm.
And the final thing that I really wanted to cover, or not final thing, is television coverage.
Yep.
So just like NASCAR, there are 2 really big entities that are fighting to get coverage. They don't fight with each other per se.
Sure.
But they swap every week. Whereas in NASCAR, we have one company that has like the first half of the year, and we have the other company that has a second half of the year.
Yeah.
With the golf, it trades almost every week.
Yeah.
And then with a tournament as big as the Masters
is CBS.
Masters is CBS. Oh, but wait a minute. ESPN came in a few years ago and said, we'd like to buy Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for this many dollars. Mm-hmm. And PGA said, okay.
Money freaking talks.
I mean, NBC said, you know what, Golf Channel can't put up that money.
Yeah.
So you can have it ESPN. So you have 3, but that's rare. They only have a couple tournaments. Fox has 1 too. But so you have 4, but it's basically NBC and it's CBS. But in NASCAR we have something similar where we have Fox Sports and NBC Sports that are dueling coverage, especially in their weekly or their nightly television programs where they talk about NASCAR and what happened there day to day. So that's a similarity. And live TV, they have similarities in terms of their long events. Golf is way longer than NASCAR, typically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at a typical, like a weekend coverage thing, the Golf Channel will have like 10 a.m.
the first 3-4 hours.
2:30 to 2. There's a half hour with nothing, and then the broadcast channel will pick up the rest, whether it's CBS or NBC. NASCAR doesn't even do that much, but they have something similar. Fox Sports does their own pre-race on FS1, and then they have race coverage that could go as long as 4.5 hours. Mm-hmm. So those things are quite similar too. So I just thought they were really similar. I thought it'd be fun to talk about since we got the Masters and it's in our home state and all that fun stuff.
Well, yeah, and one thing I'll add into that is the end of it. So the last 20 laps, that's where you're standing up. That's where you're looking at what's going on. Okay, here it is. All the culmination of everything we've done over the last several days to get qualifying done, to get practice done, over the last several hours with the strategy and everything, over the last pit stop to get this car where it is now. Where are we going to finish now? Let's stand up and see what happens. Same thing in golf, where you're down the last 3 holes. There's 2 dudes tied, and they're usually standing next to each other. What's going to happen? And you're standing up, and you're hooting and hollering for that. Well, maybe not hooting and hollering. It's golf. I'm hooting and hollering. But
there's a lot of $1 beers by that point.
That's truth. That's truth. So, y'all, that brings us. That was fun, by the way. I enjoy that. That brings us to Strange with Stang. Miss Ashley J. Stang asks us this week, Sherwin, if you're getting mugged at knife point, how would you react? We got A, B, and C. A, you just yell, "Take everything, I'm scared." And you just give them everything and whatever. B is run. And C, I've got to temper this a little bit. Somebody just yell out, "Somebody call the police and ambulance. I just beat the poop out of this a-hole." So, which one have you? Do you just give them everything? Do you run, or do you, fight or flight here? What's the story?
Well, I'll tell you what. The reality of it is, it's probably somewhere between B and C.
Okay.
If I was being like super macho, I'm a tough guy, C is the option I would select there. But I think it's somewhere between like fake run and see if you catch him off guard a little bit. And then if he like stumbles towards you, then you like karate kick him in the face and then run some more.
Yeah. So, see, my answer, obviously we're dudes. Our macho answer is, it's definitely C. I'm going to beat the crap out of him. I'm just going to, like, matrix this thing and whoosh, whoosh. Oh, yeah, good luck stabbing me. And then you hit him in the face and you're standing over the top of his body, teabag him, whatever. Like, that's
ultimate insult.
Yeah. That's the macho dude thing. The truth is, I'm probably somewhere between, like, A, which is just, here, have it all, and For me, it's kind of like, all right, let's assess the situation. He wants all my stuff. All right, that's fine. I carry maybe $20 on me.
I don't carry much cash either. That's what's funny about anymore. This question.
Here you go. Have my credit card. I'll just go cancel it in a little bit. Like there's no
with my phone.
Right. There's no obligation with the credit card. The phone is locked. There's nothing you can do with it, and it's cracked. This freaking screen is cracked. What are you gonna do? Like sell it for $20? All right, fine. Go get your money. But so. I'm probably going to let him have what he wants, and then it's a matter of, all right, what's next? Does he walk off? Fine. Is he trying to be more aggressive? All right, now let's see where now we're getting to B and C, like, am I going to run or am I going to like try to fight him off or whatever? So I've got a coworker, by the way, who was mugged. He lives in Chicago. He was mugged one day. The mugger, first off, was terrible because he just said, "Give me all your money," kind of thing, with no
device,
nothing. Just, hey, you have this. I want this now. And he did not know that my coworker trains MMA, and my coworker beat the slop out of this guy. The guy ended up somehow with a weapon, like pulled a grate, from what I understand, and hit my coworker over the head with this like grate that he just picked up and found as he was almost beat silly. And it kind of became like a stalemate. Like, this dude had the crap beat out of him. My coworker got hit over the head with a grate.
Goodness.
So it was kind of like all right, fine, here's 20, but like, get out of here, whatever. And he walked to the police station just kind of loopy headed. Like, Jesus.
So
like,
I think
I'm not that badass.
Well, there's an assessment required. Like, you size up a guy.
Right.
If he's a little guy.
Right.
He's a little guy. And he's coming with a knife. Well, that's different than if it's like Brendan Schaub.
Right. Well, I mean, knives are kind of pokey, They
do poke.
They do some poking stuff. I don't like being poked like that. Anyway, well, let's start winding this thing
a little
down.
bit there.
Why not? It doesn't matter.
At least I didn't start choking again.
It's all
Goodness
good.
gracious.
Y'all, hey, quick shout out before we close this thing down. Our newest patron, Mr. Gabriel Dree.
All the way from Italia.
I tell you what, we gonna send him. We gonna find a way to send him a
We're gonna figure it out.
stickers and stuff. We're gonna make that happen.
All the
worldwide.
way.
We make it happen. Ain't no doubt. And that's gonna do it. Y'all know where to find us. Go to patreon.com/PETM. Join the PETM posse. Sponsor some drivers. Have some fun. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Walls at Tailgate Mayor,
And I'm pregame engineer Andrew Sherwood at pregame ENG.
Y'all follow us on Twitter at PETM Podcast. And we're gonna talk to y'all next week.
Thumbs up.